at this point, we are going to get ready to move into our keynote portion of our membership meeting this morning. Again, we do appreciate you joining us. I do believe we have Scott Crawford here with us now. He's going to come on and say hello, and I think he's going to take the time to bring Jason Adams in as well for our keynote speaker. So with that, I will let Scott take it away. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, hey, thanks so much, Frank. Good to see you. Coming to you from Richmond, Virginia. I live in Roanoke, but I'm in Richmond at some meetings, and it's dark and dreary here too. So I'm wondering if that's like across the entire state. So maybe this is a good day to take a break from excavation and join a membership meeting, right? So anyway, thank you so much for hosting, Frank, and thank all of those who are in attendance for taking some time to learn a little more about what's going on at Virginia 811 and some items related to our industry. I'm incredibly excited today to be able to introduce our keynote speaker. Today, we'll be hearing from Jason Adams with Irth Solutions. You may know Jason. He's been in the industry for some time. Irth Solutions has a host of platforms that relate to various parts of the 811 process. Germane today, relevant for today, is the Exactix platform that Irth Solutions provides for 811 center operations. It's a software platform that's incredibly robust. We've been incredibly impressed by it. And I'm excited to say, as many of you know who have been following some meetings over the past roughly 6 to 8 months, that Virginia 811 has been discussing and looking at different platforms to migrate to. And we have officially chosen Irth Solutions and its Exactix platform to move to as an 811 center. This process has begun. The project has technically begun. We're hoping for a July 1st conversion. That may be a little aggressive on our part. It might take just a little longer, but that's what we're shooting for. And from this point forward, you really, if you're in our industry, if you're tied to us as a member, locator, excavator, you really need to be paying attention to everything going on with this migration to this software platform. It impacts just about everything Virginia 811 does, from ticket entry to member management to mapping to billing even. So this is a really huge transition for the notification center, and we're very excited about it. So without further ado, it's my honor to be able to welcome the famous, or maybe infamous, Jason Adams with Irth Solutions. So Jason, I hope you're here because I gave you an introduction and Frank assured me you are. So I'm going to turn it over to Jason at this time.
Hi, Scott. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Hey, great. It's absolutely great to be here. I'm going to fool around and try to make sure I can share my screen. And so everyone will be able to see my presentation. Let me see. Can everybody see that okay, Frank?
Yeah. Yes,
okay.
We've got it. Thank
Great.
you, Jason.
Great. All righty. First, I will chime in here. I'm in Bonita Springs, Florida, where it's sunny and 80. I'm visiting my family here. Unfortunately, I get on a plane in about 7 hours and I go to Chicago, where the high tomorrow is 9 degrees. I feel for you in Virginia, but I also know that you have it much better than I do in Chicago. So that's good. I have to tell you, the time here with the Virginia 811 has followed along in my career quite a bit. As Scott kind of alluded to, I've been doing this for quite a while. And what I'm hoping to do today is kind of give you a little bit of background on myself, on the Irth company, and talk about our Exactix platform and where we hope to get to with the platform and why we're so excited about the partnership with Virginia. First and foremost, I've been in the industry since 1998. I started answering phones at Irth in the support desk area. And eventually by 2012, I was the CEO and the president of Irth Solutions. In 2012, at the end of that, I decided it was time to move on. And I started another company called 4IQ Solutions in 2013, which focused on building training and educational platforms we originally targeted the medical school market, but we'll talk a little bit about how that has kind of evolved and why we see that as a major advantage as we move forward with our platforms. And we'll talk about Irth Training. In 2019, I acquired a company called DigTix, which was a ticket management company. And during that time at 4IQ Solutions, we began to pivot away from only our training platform, and we started writing our new one-call platform. My partner, who I've worked with since 98, John Cachet, is pretty well known in our industry. He was one of the original, I believe he was the original person that ever created the ability to use polygonal mapping in ticket creation. So a lot of times today, when you're looking at the registration data that you're using, you can kind of tilt your hat to John because he's the one that built that first platform. That was our platform that we delivered starting in the year 2000. It's called Irth One Call. At that time, Irth had, I think, 13 one-call centers were using that platform. Then when John and I left in 2013, started our 4IQ Solutions, we launched the Exactix platform in 2019, 2020, roughly. And we thought there was a much better way to build a one-call platform. We understood that the movement to everything in the cloud was critical, that accessibility and reliability and precision were really kind of the focus, but we also wanted to deliver a system that could accommodate multiple states simultaneously, and also be a system that could roll out upgrades and changes much faster. So we'll talk a little bit about that and why that's important as we move forward in the future. So for myself, again, I've now taken over the role of Executive Vice President at Irth Solutions, and I'm in charge of the Exactix line, so our entire one-call platform, and I also handle our Irth Training. Irth has really changed over the years. Currently, we're the fastest growing provider of one-call solutions that are out there. Currently, as you can look at our list, with Virginia signing most recently, you can see that the centers that most recently signed prior to Virginia was Colorado. That was coming from a previous vendor like yourself. So we're really excited about the opportunity to work Virginia and Colorado simultaneously, so that we can see two systems get converted and we can work together, but also then identify new functionality for both systems during this process. So our goal, of course, is to launch Virginia July 1st, and then have Colorado, I believe their target date is mid to late October of 2025. But involved also, we have currently DigSafe New England, which is 5 states, and then UDig New York, Arizona, South Carolina, Florida, and Indiana. What makes Irth, I think, really unique in this market space is the fact that we're the largest provider of ticket management solutions. So our one-call product and our ticket management product, when looked at together, account for somewhere over 2/3 of all tickets in our industry go to an Irth-based platform. So we create about just over 40% of the tickets in the market today. When we add Virginia and Colorado, we'll be just above 40% actually. And we receive somewhere in the neighborhood of about 71, 72% of all tickets. That's going to be very important as we start talking about how data and the value of what that predictability in the data helps us accomplish in our system as we move forward. But Irth has grown quite a bit. When I started at Irth in 98, we had 22 employees. Currently today, we're over 400 employees. And while for many years, Irth, which originally started, interestingly enough, Irth started, and for those that have been in the industry for a long, long time, Irth was originally known as AGT International, and that stood for Advanced Gaming Technologies. We used to write solutions for lottery systems. So of course, everybody can understand how that gets you into damage prevention. It was an interesting path, you might say, but here we sit today now, almost 30 years later, the largest provider of damage prevention software. But interestingly enough, damage prevention only equates for about 50% of the overall revenue now at Irth. where traditionally it had accounted for more than 80 to 90%. With our recent acquisitions and growth and some of our new product offerings, damage prevention is still the absolute key to our core business. But now as we expand that, we're introducing new avenues to collect more data, but also new functionality. And we start to see that in some of our products like our Earth Assist and our Earth Insights. Insights is our risk algorithm AI-based solutions, and we'll talk about how that's going to integrate with Exactix. Recently, we acquired a company in Canada called OneBridge, and they focus on pipeline integrity. We also do Earth land management for helping people in their management of land ownership rights and as they grow in their construction. And we're also excited to announce in 2025, we'll be releasing our new Earth excavator platform. And so we're incredibly excited about it. We believe it's going to have significant advantages when used in coordination with our Exactix platform for creating tickets. And what we believe and what we've seen already is some very interesting reductions of ticket counts when using an excavator-based ticket platform creation. So we're excited about that. That's new paths that we're going to be blazing in the next, hopefully, few years. And we're really excited to have Virginia walking stride by stride with us. So really quickly, our mission at Earth, and it's changed over the years, but I think I really like where we are today. Our mission is to improve the resiliency and reduce risk in the delivery of essential services provided by network critical infrastructure that millions of people and businesses rely on each day. And that's a big statement, but what we really look at Earth is how can we make sure those that are working in and around, and we can protect our infrastructure because we completely understand how vital it is to our day-to-day operations. If we learned anything during COVID was that while the world may change, life must go on. And we have to make sure that that infrastructure that we work so hard to protect, and our partners at Virginia 811 and our other call centers, that we're putting our best foot forward and protecting that infrastructure, but also keeping people safe and learning how to get better at it while we do it. So that's one of the things we're really excited about as we start talking a little bit more about AI. So this is some numbers that we had before. I always, as long as I've been in this industry, it kind of blows my mind at times, to be honest with you. Earth currently serves, of the top 20 energy, utility, and telecom companies, 17 of the top 20 are our customers. We're doing somewhere in the neighborhood, when you look at ticket counts, we're touching and interacting with somewhere in the neighborhood of just over 200 million tickets a year. We receive information from every single one call center that exists, or at least that we know of. And we have clients at scale all across the United States, Canada, South America. We also have clients now in Europe and Australia. So we're in the damage prevention world, we are by far the largest provider of technology. And our business has matured and grown dramatically over the last few years. Most of that has to do by in 2020, I believe. I think that's right. Yeah, 2020. Earth was sold to Blackstone Equity Partners, and we are part of the Blackstone Energy Fund. So our organization, we're one of the only software companies that sits in that fund. And we found with our partnership with Blackstone that it's been really nice because Blackstone has a complete focus on its ownership areas of energy companies and alternate energies and trying to protect and keep the infrastructure sound. So I can tell you from my time in this industry, it's been rare to find a partner that was willing to invest in our offerings. Most of the times, companies just said, how can you become more efficient and sell for more money? But interesting, when I came over to Blackstone in 2022, it was the first time that we've seen people really invest. And we can see that directly in our Exactix product. Our Exactix team has always been rather small because it's such a critical product. It's hard to scale. But in this case, we've tripled the size of our staff since we joined with Blackstone. So that gives us the ability to not only deliver multiple systems at the same time, but provide an incredibly high level of support that I just don't think can be answered in this industry today. So really excited about that relationship with Blackstone. We've been growing pretty aggressively. And just personally, from my opinion, I've seen the partnership really been valuable to my clients. So that's been exciting. So let's talk a little bit about what makes a quality one call center. And I'm going to skip through some of these because I think you in Virginia, I can remember, I was trying to tie it down. I think it was 2004 when during my time at Irth the first time, we had some significant conversations with then Rick Pavarsky, the previous executive director. And I think it was 2004 when we started really trying to bring Virginia on as a client. So the sales cycle, if you have to worry about those kind of things in your job, usually not ideal when it takes 20 years to close a client. But I will say in this scenario, it's been worth every year doing it. I have sat on the sidelines watching Virginia and watching some of the strides the center has taken by themselves. And I think using very challenging core software you had previously just do some amazing things. And so we're incredibly excited about the opportunity to work with your staff and your team because we see their vision and it aligns very similarly to ours. And so we're super excited to put very powerful tools in the hands of your team now because we think you can take our tools and make them better than anyone has before. So we're pretty excited about that. When I start talking about one call centers for us, we look at a few factors that are incredibly important. First thing, and no matter what these lists say and any of that, the most important thing is that the system's reliable, that it's there when you need it, that you have a backup plan and contingencies, what happens. One of the beauty things of using the cloud today is that we have multiple versions of our system and all of our clients, so all of those one call centers that you saw earlier can act as backup agents for our other centers. It's simply switching a tab inside of the program, and then you can start creating tickets for another state. So we actually have clients that do that today. Our New England one call center has their after-hour tickets taken by our New York one call center. Zero additional training, just simply hit a little tab and do that. So we're really proud of the system we built. And I think when John designed it, the idea was make a system that can't be taken down. And we're very proud since the day we launched, we've had zero downtime, zero unscheduled downtime. Occasionally we take the system down just to do updates. So one of the things that I think that we're going to be bringing that will be interesting and new to the stakeholders of Virginia are some of our new areas that we're expanding on rapidly. What's a little different in one call is that this program is a moving target. We released this version, I believe, in 2021, 2022, or 2020 or 2021. And we're now on the third major release, and we've probably had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 90 releases, all done seamlessly behind the scenes. Most of our users don't know. I think one of the advantages is our ability to test in these great little sandbox areas and really validate everything before you roll it into production. So that's a really nice piece. And one of the areas that I think Virginia is going to see a lot of advancement is the way that you can participate in the development cycle and how those functions and features then get released. Some of the areas that we're focusing on right now is extended positive response, expanded positive response. I think we have 47 different names for this. No one's come up with anything good. We'll figure it out one of these days. But the idea is that we're trying to build a much better communication portal with the information out in the field. And so what we typically do is we sit down with all of our centers and we say, hey, what's your idea? What's your goals? What's your vision? And then we try to put that together. We have some great industry leaders that sit in that team with us from other state call centers. And so we typically start building these out. Right now, we're putting a lot of focus on what I guess is extended positive response and also project tickets. So that's interesting. I know that's something I think has actually been rolled back in Virginia. So it's an interesting way to kind of see where we're going with this and if that has any real benefit. But the expanded positive response introduces a lot of new data into the conversation. And I think it's going to be something that you hear over and over from me is introducing more valuable, qualified data will give us the ability to learn more about how we actually function and what works and what doesn't work. So by expanding what we're doing out in the field so that people can start providing more information back, they can give us more photos, they can give us real-time information, they can have real-time chats and keep all of that in there, we think is an incredible way to introduce significant more data and learn more about what's working and what's not working in the field. Once we get that data, we use our risk and data. So we're the first company to really roll out a full risk algorithm. We started this when I was at 4IQ. We felt very strongly that the data that's contained in this industry is the most valuable asset we own as an industry. The predictive data and nature that comes from this data has value both inside of damage prevention, but also outside of damage prevention. And we truly believe the only way to reduce damages by 50%, which is the goal of the industry, is to increase our ability to understand how to work more efficiently and fund it properly. You have to have a financial component to understand how to see this. And so what we've seen is our ability to use risk and data allows us to make better decisions, allows us to roll trucks more effectively, to create better and more accurate tickets. And we're just beginning on this. So one of the things that caught my eye very early on when Scott started working at Virginia was the big push of leveraging AI. I believe you're probably one of, if not the most advanced center today using AI in various formats. And you did that with great partnerships with local partners like Virginia Tech. And I'm not sure of all the other ones, but man, is that an impressive way to run a one call center and be able to do that. So we're really excited. I think we're going to align very well as we start to move forward with our risk and data plays. You'll hear a lot more coming out of that. And as we start to talk about the excavator tool in the near future, I think you'll see some great value of that as well. And then maybe my favorite part, the part that kind of snuck up on us that we never really understood, is integrated assessment. The one thing that we've learned is now we can really identify behavior with our one call system. We can make better tickets and all of those things. But if you can't train people and show them how to do it, your best efforts are going to fail. And so for us, we're very excited with the ability that Virginia is now going to have is when you're doing your QA quality control, your different assessment, you're going to have a competency-based learning tool there next to you that can see how your students and learners are performing and how to help them get better at what they're doing. This is a Trojan horse of our system delivery because almost every user should go through training in our platform. And what we found out is we've been launching one call centers, and my partner and I have been doing this for 20 plus years. And needless to say, we are embarrassed at how easy it is to launch centers lately. It used to be we'd go for 4 or 5 days, we'd stay up, we would sweat bullets, things would and now, needless to say, you're fully tested in training. By the time you turn that thing on, there's no difference between Monday and Tuesday, honestly. And so what we've seen are incredibly great launches. And the way that we look at that is we look at how many phone calls come in at the one call center on the day you launch. And of course, you're going to have the few people that no matter what you do, you tell everybody and their brother that, hey, you're changing one call platforms and you need to get updated. There's always a few that don't do it. But our approach has been to strategically go around the top 10% of your ticket creators. And we start 6 weeks before live date and we train the top 10%. And then the next day we train the next top 10%. And we keep doing that until everyone's trained. And what we found out is that when we turn the system live, we get additional phone calls, but most of the time our goal is to make sure that the wait time stays in line with what you did when you launched. So the scariest part about launching a one call center is launching a one call center. And I think we've relieved some of the fear, but it's still going to be scary. So for all the members that are listening today, the task that your staff is about to undertake in behalf of making the one call center is an incredibly challenging task. They are going to be redoing the foundation of the technology that the one call center has run for more than the last 20 years. And so needless to say, they're going to need to really focus and get really narrowed in on launching this so the entire membership sees the value. But it's also the membership's responsibility to train and learn. And so we're going to be working alongside with you during that process because at the end of the day, we get judged on that launch day more than anything. And so our biggest challenge is to make sure that launch day is the most uneventful day of the calendar year. And if we pull that off, we can all sleep better the next day. So There's some additional stuff in here that I can really go in depth. I don't want to go too much. I do kind of want to talk about AI. Some of the stuff that's going on with AI today has been really interesting. You're using it to validate your assessment, to use natural language to look at, does the information in the remarks field align with where the actual areas are? Those are great areas, obvious areas that we've seen. What we're starting to do now is hoping to introduce the ability so that as we are creating tickets, we can look in real time at service areas to see where some areas are busier than other. Maybe offer suggestions of where if you were to move your work start date by a day or two, you'd have a much greater chance of getting it marked in a timely fashion, on time, and so forth. So we're adding a lot of this kind of ebb and flow into the information exchange between the end user and the utility member. And what we're really starting to see is value. And one of the things that we've seen is when the excavators, who in many cases, 70% of the cases are utility owners as well, when they participate using these tools, we see that they update tickets more appropriately and on time and effectively. And when they do that, they submit less tickets. And in the neighborhood of around 20% less update tickets come out when they have valid tools to make this process better. So we're pushing really hard on this narrative because we think it's a great path in order to reduce those unwanted update tickets that clutter the system too much. One of the things that we hope everyone will learn as they're starting to see Exactix is this system not only handles creation of tickets well, but it's wonderful at reporting data. And so what you'll want to do is work with the one call center to really fine tune whether it's your registration data, whether you're submitting tickets, all of those different areas are going to be a little bit different than you have previously used. And we hope that you'll really take time to train and learn how to use it the most effective way possible. If you're using our ticket management platform, so we have a significant amount of member utilities in the state of Virginia that are using one of our ticket management platforms. I will tell you, you are in luck because there are significant additional benefits now. When you're using this, the AI transfer, the scoring transfer, all of those data points that we look at for making safer and broader tickets now become available also inside of our ticket management platforms. And in the future, we believe that we're going to see real-time ticket management AI going along with ticket creation so that the platforms are working together. And we'll do that whether you're using one of our products or not. We believe in this industry that once we can all agree on an API to communicate effectively, that we want to see that rolled out in every one call center, whether they're using our platform or not, because it's about time that our industry really embraces the idea of communicating high quality data and not be worried about the challenge of state lines to limit our ability to communicate effectively. So you'll keep hearing us pushing that narrative here in the future. If anyone's ever bored and wants to have a conversation with me about risk, I'm a good one. If you're really bored and very smart, I'll set you down in front of Kyle Murphy, who is our data science engineer, who will talk to you till you're blue in the face about why the 11th spot after the decimal point is so critical in risk analysis. I don't have time for that anymore, so he makes me pretty charts with arrows, and I just say, everybody, this is why this is smart. So, but it is a very interesting conversation. Every day, I will tell you, we're investing more and more at Irth into our AI because we're seeing the greatest returns for our clients. And our goal here is in alignment with the CGA in many ways, that our goal is to create much more accurate tickets and reduce the amount of unwanted tickets in this industry. If we do that, we believe we can reduce damages by 50%. Let me check my watch. I don't want to get going too far. Okay, so I got a couple more minutes here. Other pieces that I think you're going to really enjoy is while we're converting, one of the things that you'll do is you're going to start to have a single login, and that login is going to provide you access to both the ticket creation part, but also the training piece. So as we're rolling this out, you will have integrated training that is rolling out simultaneously with the one call platform. And like I said previously, around 6 to 8 weeks prior to launch. So in this case, we're launching in July. we'll probably look at March, April. So probably April, May, we'll start cutting off the input screens and finalizing the input output of the system. And once that's done, we'll begin building the training, and then we'll start focusing on that. So, I would suggest that make sure you're keeping your inbox open and that you look for these updates from the One Call Center when they tell you about the training schedule. It's really critical that you participate in this training and learn the nuances between the system that you're using today and what we're moving forward with tomorrow. We truly believe that this is it's less challenging than creating tickets in your existing system, and it's far more accurate, but it is different. So people do need to take some time to learn how to use the system. And once we start doing that, as you start using the system and you start taking our training, if you're not performing well, so let's say you do really great, but for some reason you're just not great in the remarks field, or you're not great in these certain fields, our training actually can identify where you're strong and give you training in the areas where you're weak. So even if you can't do a ticket perfectly on day one, we're going to guide you through all the steps. So by the time you're done with the training, you'll be competent in all the areas. Most people that have done tickets before don't find this to be that challenging, but for new people that have never seen it, this is a great introduction. Finally, let me get through this last few pieces. We do a lot of things inside of our system that I think will have benefit to the membership. Everything from tracking damages to doing output to DIRT systems and so forth. All of those are available. And we're starting to work with your team now to figure out what the final deliverable is. But I would say have an active voice with the One Call Center. If there's something that you would like to see, if there's something you see in another state that you believe has benefit, especially if it's in an exacting system. Most of our clients aren't aware of this, but if you're in multiple states, anything that our exacting systems do in one state can be done in any state. It's really about what the One Call Center and the state laws look like. So if you do see something and you're interested, please reach out to myself or to one of the members of the One Call team in Virginia and just give us some feedback, because really what we're trying to do at the end of the day is build the best system to accommodate the needs of the users and members of the state of Virginia. And so each system we deliver, while built on the same technology, can be kind of customized to provide the best experience possible for that state. And over the next 6 to 8 months, we're going to be doing a lot of that research. Some certain areas that we're talking about and expanding and that you'll see is our worker and field safety is extremely important to us. We focus a lot of our time with our utility companies and not only making sure that the tickets are marked correctly and handled correctly, but how we can keep those workers safe. And so we'll extend that ideas into the One Call Center as well. And so you may see additional training offered at the One Call Center level that is just how to be smarter around damage prevention. So it's a good thing. We also, if you're not aware, the training platform, which was formerly known as Corsetra, which is now known as Irth Training, because we keep changing names every week because I don't know why. One of the things of being in a big business is there's like people make decisions above me and I have no idea why. So I just smile and say, yes, sir, which is weird when your boss is sitting in your old office that you used to sit in. So anyways, but one of the things I will tell you is I think it's really important as we start to move forward, as you start to do some of this information, you provide that feedback, but also say, hey, there's stuff that we like and we don't like. So if you can give us that feedback, incredibly important. One thing that we always try to end on this is that we've seen people that have been trained properly and have gone through our system. We see that we're able to reduce damages by 81%. So we've taken relatively same groups of people. We've done the same actions. The only difference is that we targeted training based on the performance of people's interaction with their system. And we did very much spot training for 6 months. And during that time, we saw over an 80% reduction. So we're really dedicated to this. And we hope that not only are we embracing new technology as you move forward, but we're embracing the ideas of being smarter and more competent and trying to train not only the people that are in the industry today, but building solutions that can train the new people as they come into the industry as we move forward in the future. I won't go through all of this. We can go through all that. Sales pitch stuff. I don't think you need to hear that. And that's it. All righty. So that's my presentation. I hope I covered a lot of area. You're going to see a lot of us in the future. You're going to see a lot of my team. And so what I hope is if you have any comments, concerns, questions, you'll run those past me. Of course, through Scott, I'll make sure all my information is available. But I will just say on behalf of Irth and my very specific Exactix team, we are thrilled that Virginia selected us. We have worked for a very long time, and this is the amount of high fives going around have never been anything more than what I've seen when Virginia signed their contract last week. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jason. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us and provide this introduction to our attendees today. I do want to maybe call Scott back on. I think he's still with us.
Yes.
And just if we have a few minutes, we got started a little early, and I think we still have a lot of time. So please, I want to encourage anybody on the call, if they want to send a question over through the chat, we can try to field those for just a minute, if that's okay, Jason and Scott.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say too, thank you so much, Jason, for taking your time today to give that wonderful overview of the platform. And I do want to underscore one of the many things you said that was important, but especially about keeping people's email inboxes open and looking for communication from Virginia 811. It's going to be imperative that everyone stays on top of the progress of this project, so that we can make this as seamless a transition as possible. Maybe while we wait for some questions, Jason, I might just ask you to expand a little, if you don't mind. I'm a web ticket entry client of Virginia 811 right now. Let's say I'm working for a rather large excavating company, and I'm doing a lot of web tickets. Mm-hmm. Now I'm hearing you say I'm going to have to relearn this, and you've got this wonderful, it sounds like, tool that's going to monitor some of my progress and can fine-tune training for me. So that made me feel a little better. But could you expand on me actually making the transition from what I'm using now to this new platform? As far as the training, how long are we talking? Anything you could relieve my fears.
Yeah, it's always interesting, right? Because most of these one call centers, and I'm not sure everyone understands the little nuances of this, but most one call centers change their one call platform about every 20 years, right? And so that is a very long window, and people will become ingrained of how they use this. Two things happen that I always say that you have to look at initially. First thing is the language and the communication, the way we talk about the way data is entered into this, right? Because there is slight nuances in what your terminology is versus how it's used in Exactix. So one of the areas that we start with typically is training in the actual verbiage of what is what, right? So we call service areas might be something in different states, they call them registration areas, they call them CDC codes, they call them all these different things. So what we typically start with is try to figure out your terminology that you speak today. And fortunately, we've done this for a long time. And then we make a little cheat guide to say, this is how you talk. This is what it means in our system, right? So that's the first thing we'll do. Very simple. Then what we do is we kind of go through when we're designing the system with you, Scott, is say, show me your ticket flow today, right? Because if you have a flow that makes sense, we can accommodate that. So that's probably more than likely. And again, I'll put the asterisk here, Scott, is that we're designing this with you now, right? And so I think the overall intent is always to build something that is familiar, but provides better output at the end. So what you're probably going to see is, if you're someone that's created a lot of tickets over the years, your flow is going to be similar. You're probably going to have to learn nuances, like maybe you use a tab key, right, instead of an enter key if you're using a lot of keyboard. We try to train to get people to use the keyboard mainly. They can use the mouse. A lot of people use the mouse, but just for speed, especially if you're doing hundreds of tickets, we train you on the keyboard. So the first steps will be, we'll go through that process. We'll train you on that. One of the beauty parts of this is there's actually a real-time help section that runs by the side that as you go through, each section, it's going to show you what it's asking for on the side in a little more human terms, right? So when it goes to address 1, it's going to say address can actually be a very specific address, like 123 Main Street. It can be a range, 100 to 200 Main Street. It can be an intersection. It can be all of these different things. Interestingly enough, it'll be whatever you guys as a one call center decide to offer that's out there. I will tell you, we haven't, and not to get too complex, but the current platform you're on is called Norfield, and we haven't had a recent Norfield client convert into our Exactix platform. But John and I have done 12 Norfield conversions over the years, and we know that the flow is pretty similar there. I don't think, in what we've seen, most of our clients so far, our power users usually need a day to adjust. It's not a huge change.
Okay.
And so what you'll find is we're going to start working with your power users. So if you're sitting here listening to this thing, you're like, who's a power user? Well, it's real easy. We look at the top 10% and we go to the number one person who puts the most tickets in. We call them and we say, you're going to sit with us and we're going to work all this through. Here's how it works. They're going to give us great feedback. They're going to be like, I don't like this, I like that. So by the end, usually by the time we've gone through 30% of your overall group, we've locked in the final flow, right? But that doesn't mean, I think it's really important that people understand that we're going to try to accommodate the workflow that you're used to as we design the new screens.
Fantastic. Yeah. And you know, Jason,
Yeah,
I was just going to say, I mean, along those lines, I love that you're going to be looking at our flow and trying to mirror that as much as possible. I do have to give credit to one of our DPS, Julie Rector. And if anybody's called in a lot of tickets, they probably had her take a ticket at some point. But you know, Julie summed it up nicely in a meeting and basically said, but the law is not changing, right? And I'm like, well, no, the law is not changing. So I'm entering the same information.
Yes.
Well, yes, you are. It'll be the exact same information by law that we have to put in anyway. So she relieved my fears a little bit by just pointing out something maybe that might be considered obvious, but you know, sometimes you get so into it you don't open your eyes wide enough. But
I think, you know, one of the parts here is that data has so much more value today than, I mean, it wasn't like it wasn't valuable before, but organizing the way the data is put into the system and making sure that high quality data gets put in correctly is really kind of a key part of the experience of using the platform. So when you build tools so users can create a ticket, what you're really trying to do is say, how can I get the most accurate data into the right field the easiest way possible, right?
Yeah.
Because what we don't want to do is sacrifice quality data for ease of use, you know? And if you remember in the old days, we used to joke garbage in, garbage out. Somebody could type in anything. There was no checking, nothing. And if you typed in, you know, if your street address was, I like to wear hats, it would send that out on a one call ticket. Today, we're much more refined in that, but I think we do all of that so seamlessly that if you typed in, I wear hats, it would correct it and give you the right possibility. So I think I hope that the new users not only say, yes, I like the way this flows, but also sees the value of the additional data that we'll ask for, right? And so I would tell your people, we haven't gone through the process, but Virginia is very forward-looking, I feel. And so you might be adding new data into this flow, right? So you might not just be asking all the same questions you asked yesterday, but you might be asking those again with some new questions. We haven't decided that yet, but one of the things that we tell people that, and when that happens, what we train is, interestingly enough, is we can set an identifier up that says, this is a new field. So somebody that's used to working a ticket then will all of a sudden go, I'm not used to this, and then see it and it'll point them to the right training, right? So, okay.
Well, and Frank, do we have questions? Because I have one more, if that's okay.
I think this is a great conversation y'all are having for the benefit of everybody on the call. I don't see any questions that have come in through the chat, so I'm going to make this the last call. Basically, last call out to attendees to put a question in through the chat. Otherwise, we're going to let Scott go ahead and ask the last question. Otherwise.
All right, I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah, I don't see anything. Go ahead, Scott.
You go ahead. Just real quick, Jason, I think some folks might be wondering, currently Virginia 811 has what it calls a SAT application, single address ticket. You don't need a web ticket entry account to do a single address ticket. You simply click through our website on the link and you can do a ticket. Now, the way it's structured is any regular user knows occasionally they have one experience because the mapping, and maybe they know this or not, the mapping aligns and the ticket is comfortable enough to be released. Sure. Whereas other times they're going back to an older application and having to enter more information, and then we have to process it on our end behind the scenes. So really, you don't have a fluid, seamless single address ticket experience. If you do a lot, you can flip between different applications. So could you maybe talk briefly about what will the single address ticket experience be? I'm a landscaper and I don't need web ticket entry. I'm doing a lot of single address tickets, so I use this application currently. How will this work for me now with Exactix?
Yeah, there's a couple little differences and nuances here. One is that we do require an email address for our single address tickets, right? Typically, we in the old days we used to call them homeowner tickets, right? Because it's like, oh, look, it's a homeowner. But then I think as we started to expand what that functionality did, it made a lot more sense to call it a single address ticket, and we'll talk about it. It was there was some pushback because people were like, hey, we don't want to have to provide an email address, right? We just want to be able to get in there. But what we found was that by having the email address associated to it, it allowed us to put a lot of other safety parameters around protecting this. I think people often, Scott, don't understand that the data you sit on is incredibly valuable. Even to us, we've been surprised because we've seen most of our systems under attack recently of people trying to get to data. So what you can't do is just have a wide open front door, because unfortunately in today's world, people that you wouldn't even expect, you're like, why is this company trying to get into my data? And if you're bored one day, come have a talk with me and I'll explain it to all. Scott, I'm sure very accommodated. But in the single address world, that's the first step that will be unique. What you've done previously, that all goes away. This is fully integrated into the system today. So fortunately enough, using what we try to do is the best quality maps, right? And so most of our centers will use a foundation map like Here Maps is that, but they can also accommodate other mapping sources. So a lot of times we'll have parcel data or county level data brought in. So we have more accurate maps. Hopefully, if we get into an area where it's something as simple as, hey, I live at 123 Main Street, if we can geocode the address and then place it and see that it aligns with the parcel and they go on top of each other, then we find that's a good quality ticket and that gets submitted automatically. If we find something that happens where they add an address, and this is important for like large farms and so forth, where that if they put an address in, but it doesn't cover the entire parcel, right? So if it takes a center spot and it puts a 500-foot buffer around it, but that parcel might be, 150 acres, and the guy's like, hey, I'm planting, flowers in the front of my yard, but he's got a huge pipeline out in the field somewhere. We're still not comfortable not making sure that is still generated ticket and we identify the whole area. So what happens is you're going to get a wider notification area to protect that ticket. Depending on our one call center, you can set parameters that says, if somebody creates a ticket where the dig site is over X amount of feet, you can have that then sent over to one of your operators. So it gets held and an operator can look at it if you choose to. These, again, are all configurations. And then that operator could actually either narrow it down, call the person out to try to make it more precise, anything they want to do. I will tell you honestly, though, I don't think that happens with most of our one-call centers. Most of our one-call centers are completely, if the person can do a single address ticket and our geocoders and all of our deduction tools can validate where it is, it's going to create that as an active ticket and go out.
Okay.
One of the things too that I think people, especially if you're doing a lot of single address tickets, I think sometimes people miss the advantages, and this is where we have to work with them. Let's say you're that guy doing invisible fences and you're doing 20 of them in a neighborhood. Scott, I know you may be aware of this feature, but somebody could go in and highlight all 20 addresses and say, I'm going to be doing from address 1 to address 50. And it will go through and create those tickets individually for you and get those out. So you don't have to go through and do 50 tickets. It will chop them down for each one. There's so many advantages here.
So Jason, wait a minute, just to be clear, It's not just linear excavation that say is 5 miles, and for Virginia it's a third of a mile, and that now will automatically create 15 tickets. Are you saying also by addresses?
If you want to do it by address range, we can chop them that way as well. So
Wow.
also the fun one is if you're a fiber guy and you're like, hey, I'm running a 2-mile fiber run down here. You just click beginning point, end point, and then it chops the tickets up to whatever legal boundaries are applicable. So in South Carolina, they might have 1,300 feet and you might have 1,500 feet. We don't care. So it will chop those for you automatically.
Well, and from a damage prevention perspective, I love that because we have had errors where there is mismeasurements and it gets off and a utility could be missed. But now the system is going to ensure that it's the entire area is covered. So that's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, listen, I will always tell you, you're going to be drinking out of a fire hose on day one, right? There's so much there. And that's okay, because I'm going to go back to a statement we said earlier. Most clients are with us 20 years. You're not supposed to master this thing day one, right? What you're supposed to master is the ability on how to learn and be efficient. Once you do that, and once your members do that, we'll continually feed them new training on how to take advantage of new functionality. Remember, the end goal here is that we all work really, really well together to make highly accurate one-call tickets that need to be located. Plain and simple. So
perfect.
We're super excited.
Yes, we are too. And Frank, do we have time to ask those 2 questions that have popped up?
We do. We do have a couple of questions that just came in. Just reading directly. Will this new program avoid having to log into different portals for other functions like adding new users, running reports, etc.?
Yeah. So the great thing in our system is it's a sole source sign-on, right? And so not only when you log into Exactix, based on your permission settings, you're going to have a role as either creating tickets or as an administrator or some sort of format like that. That will cover your permissions through everything you do. That also includes in all of your training. So if you're doing training outside of this, so when you go to different trainings like the Earth training thing, what you log into Exactix is the same credentials that you'll use in the training. Unfortunately, at this time, if you're using Utilisphere or DigTix, our ticket management programs, you're going to have to log in separately. So you log into the one-call platform, you'll log into the ticket management platform. But between you and me, our goal is to have that all tied together here, hopefully by the end of 2026. Okay. So, and then I see the other one was, it looked like a good one about grids, polygons, updating with the new platform. Yeah, look, your life's going to change dramatically. It's so cool the way our system works. I know how your system, I think I'm pretty good at knowing all my competitors' systems, and I know yours very well. And you're really going to like the new way this works. So you can very simply upload shape files. We have a map change detection. We'll have very specific training areas on how to leverage this. We will probably have to work with Scott and his team to figure out how often we change the base mapping, but we try to be pretty accurate in that. Having multiple layers, such as satellite layers and all that, that's more of a conversation of what the one call center wants to deliver at the end of the day. But I think you're really going to be happy with the new functionality.
Oh, definitely. That sounds great. Well, Jason, if no other questions are coming in, Frank, I'll let you close out. But I will say, Jason, again, thank you so mumuch. We're so excited about the partnership. I wish this one could have been in person. I'd be shaking your hand right now in excitement about moving forward with Earth. So, thank you for all you and your team are doing to help Virginia with damage prevention efforts. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on today. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to everybody. And I will say again, this has been a long, long journey for us. And the fact that we finally got the right team at Virginia to partner with us is for John and I personally. I think you know how long we've been doing this, Scott. This is a crowning achievement for us. We are so excited. Now, as everyone knows, the talk is fun, but we got the hard work ahead of us. So yeah. I will say that to everybody in this call, please be supportive of your team at Virginia. They're going because remember, they still have day-to-day operations. They're doing their normal job, and then we're asking them to do a significant additional heavy lift. So whatever you could do to make their job easier, please do it. It'll be worth it for all of us at the end of the day. Thank you, Jason. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
All right. Thank you, Jason, and thank you, Scott, for joining us. Obviously, this will conclude our meeting now. At this point, we just have one last